Hello everyone, it's Sylvia from Fella Tarot. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to have a look at tarot personalities, and that's actually a bit of a VR or a bit of an inspired video because I was watching many videos yesterday, and I saw a video in Robin's Reflections channel. And Robin was talking about tarot personalities and how do tarot readers actually assign a personality or, totally find their decks to have a personality. And she was mentioning that the inspiration for that kind of reflection came to her by watching another video by another tarot tuber, and she's called Cody from Tarot Readings by a Beach. And so I went and watched her video as well. I think it's a very, very beautiful conversation because it was very interesting, intellectually stimulated, and also at the same time was kept really safe, as in, I have my own opinion, but I accept that others can have a different opinion. And I have to say, I totally agree. I personify my decks, but that's been going on forever for me. And to be honest with you, I never really even stopped and think about the way I personalize them. But thanks to those two videos, and I will make sure to link them in the description box below, I actually came up with a different kind of list of personalities. So I think that I was probably thinking more about the decks and coming up with identifying their own personality. But it can be done in the other way around. So this is just an invitation. I'm writing down the prompts in the description box below. So if anyone wants to pick it up, I think it's really funny because it is one of the other ways in which you can actually bond with your decks, is to getting to know them better and assigning them a personality, or rather recognizing their own personality is definitely a way to getting to know better. So let's have a look. So there's actually no, let's say, order in which I am starting this kind of list. So to me, I will start with this one. It's the Adventurer. So the Adventurer is a deck that loves exploring and is goal-oriented and stops at nothing to achieve its objective. And I think that this is the personality of the Curious Travels tarot deck by Arother. Now, this deck has a bit of a story behind, because this is the indie edition, and I got it thanks to Sharon from a trio of Witches Tarot that was kind enough to actually accept to send it here in Australia. Now, originally when I looked at this deck, I really fell in love with its artwork, with the color palette, with the fact that there's this dull gold stamp on it that is not too distracting, which could be something that you can find in a gold stamping on the cards. This deck is, because it's called the Curious Travels, has always made me interested in knowing what the energy of the deck was about, and I think it really reflects the one of the Adventurer. So it's not just the Adventurer that travels, it's indeed the Adventurer that leaves the I'd say the well-known settings behind. So the ones that escape from the routine, there you go, and they go towards the sun basically, and that's the spirit of adventure for me. So sometimes I might be traveling but not seeking adventure, and other times I may be still in Sydney back at home but still seeking that kind of escape from the daily routine. And this tarot deck is very helpful, as a matter of fact, for that. So at the beginning I thought, okay, should I buy it? I didn't know, because in the website of the creator it says that it's going to be picked up mass market, but that was about a year ago, if not longer, and it was immediately after the Kickstarter decks had been sent off. So it felt a bit odd that there have been people spending, I don't know, 80 plus, I think, dollars on the deck, which is totally worth it, by the way, but spending that much money on the deck and then, by way of an announcement, knowing that soon there'll be a mass market edition that replaces the deck. However, I don't know whether there has been delays perhaps or something, but we still don't have a date on the publication of the mass market version of this deck. But I'm really looking forward to it, because you never know what changes they do to the deck. But in any case, if you like it, you don't have it, you like it, keep an eye out for the announcement on the creator's website. So this is the Adventurer, and it's the Curious Travels Tarot deck by Arthur. And the next prompt is the Hugger. So this is a deck that's ready to comfort you and made you feel better no matter what. And I have to say, this is my only DV during Virtue's deck. Not because I've got anything against her or Rightly Valentine's decks in general, absolutely not. It just so happens to be like the only one that I've got. I don't have a lot of angel decks now that I think about it. I do have the Influence of the Angels deck, but I think that's about it. And that's mainly because it does remind me a little bit of Cat Black's Golden Tarot, which I don't have. So perhaps because I was looking for that one day, I was in a bookstore and I just happened to find the other one. But talking about this deck, now I don't know if you got it. I don't know if you have the older edition that was still signed by During Virtue. I don't know if you have the newer one by Rightly Valentine. And I don't know if perhaps you have it and you don't agree with DV's During Virtue's choices. And no matter what, I mean, regardless of that, it's something that I think that we can all appreciate. This deck is absolutely not my aesthetics. I don't necessarily like the wallpaper on the back of the cards. I don't necessarily like the really long message at the bottom of the card. I think that it's not a very, sorry about the reflection, by the way. I think that it's not necessarily one of those decks that you read in a tarot spread, simply because it is also oracle size, as you can tell. And it's because the messages are actually quite distracting. But it is a very beautiful deck when you use it for meditation, when you use it for kind of not necessarily shadow work, because shadow work is made out of several steps and this deck only covers one. So perhaps it should be used for the recovery part of the shadow work. But in any case, this deck is just a hugger. Whenever you need a hug, because you know perfectly well that the Five of Thoughts, which is the Five of Air, which is the Five of Swords, is not a good card, right? We know that that's the gaslighting. We know that that's that kind of element in which you don't really know, you lost your foothold, you lost your ways, and you lost full stop, in the sense that someone else had an unfair advantage towards you didn't even know about, or perhaps you're the one who's actually having an unfair advantage towards someone else, and your winnings depend on that. And so you can't really rejoice that, because it's morally a bit of a gray area sometimes. So I prefer to look at the Five of Thoughts as, you know, the gaslighting card. I think it's very modern. It gives you a very keyword kind of idea of how to read the card. But I think that no matter what your own interpretation on the card is, I think we can all agree that the Five of Air is not the best card in the deck. As a matter of fact, I've heard a lot of tarot readers thinking that that is the worst card, and not even referring to the Ten of Swords, or not even referring to the Seven of Swords, or the Three of Swords, or the Tower. No, they were actually saying the Five of Swords is the worst card, because actually there is intention to hurt. There is something going on in the background, there is treason, and it's an intention to hurt. And I completely agree. So whether you read it in one way or another, I think we can all agree on that it's not a good card, right? And yet you use this deck and you use it because you want a hug. And you know, when you're pulling cards, you're thinking, what if I pull a bad card? What if I pull a negative card? Well, there you go. I mean, even on a card like this, the message is this, and I'm going to read it to you. The path you were on seemed like the right one, but now you've run into a challenge. There's a better direction for you that will make you much happier in the end. Changes are necessary so that you can get back on track. Avoid negative people who are draining or who bring unwanted drama into your life. So it's a warning card. It's not as negative as the message generally is on the Five of Air. or even the 10 of air. A situation has been troubling you, has come to an end, and you can breathe a sigh of relief. So it actually always invites you to look at the silver lining, perhaps, of the cards. And that's something that you need. It's the way in which you are receiving a hug whenever you need it. So this deck is a hugger because it's always making you feel better no matter what, no matter what card you actually pull. This deck will make you feel better. And this is the hugger for me, and it's the Guardian Angel Tarot by Doreen Virtue and Radley Valentine. And the next prompt is the DarkAF deck. Sorry about the curse word there, but it's actually really apt, I think, to describe this type of energy or this personality. So these decks are really dark. They're always thinking about the worst case scenario, no matter what. We had the Haga that was always ready to make you feel better, no matter what. In this case, even the good cards actually have a kind of a shadowy feel to them, a darker side to them, which is, ironically, is one of my favorite decks because I don't really believe in the power of hugging. And let me just explain, because I realized that it came out a bit odd. What I mean is that if you're facing something in life, of course you need to feel the support of people around you, and you definitely need to recharge your batteries if you don't have enough energy to face what's going to happen. But I'm someone who's always been overactive, perhaps overthinking, and I'm always feeling like giving and receiving hugs is amazing, because also studying neuroscience taught me that you release oxytocin with, you know, at least 30 seconds of a hug. You actually release a neurotransmitter that makes you feel better. It's the same substance that is released when a mother is giving birth, and that makes the bond even stronger between a mother and their children. So I just wanted to say that we had the hugger, and I just don't really feel like hugs for me don't solve anything, and they're absolutely useful to feel better, but then you still have the same problem to deal with. And this deck, ironically, is, you know, kind of the other side of the spectrum. So even positive cards in this deck, you know, for example, the Queen of Wands. I mean, it's the performer. It's the one that always likes to be on the spotlight and will always do something to show off, but also in a good way. The Queen of Wands to me is also the one that, you know, helps you out because she has a good heart. And but of course, in this case, there is fire, referring back to the suit of fire, the suit of wands. There is a cake, a birthday, I think it is a birthday cake. That's the one that set fire to the zombie. And it's kind of, you know, well, isn't that a bummer? And so this tarot deck is all about that. It's the kind of deck that is very, very dark. Z stands for zombie, of course. It's by Alejandro Colucci, which is one of my favorite artists. I really love all of his work. So I've got Tarot V about vampires as well, of course. And I pick this deck whenever I want to be reminded of how different a world this deck is based on. So this is not a world we live in, obviously, or at least not yet, or you never know if it's gonna head in that way or not. But what really strikes me is the value of feelings that you can still tell is very much powerful in each and every card. Look at these Two of Cups, for example. There is so much melancholy that comes out of the card, or the Four of Cups. So I was talking about this deck with Robin, actually, and I was saying I love this deck because it reminds me of that sense of being lost. And you don't need to be a zombie to be lost sometimes. You're just lost because of whatever happens in your life. And I feel that there's a book that is one of my favorite. It's called, is it called The 12 or The Passage? It's by Justin Cronin. Honestly, I don't remember if it's because I read them all. And in one of them, it's either The 12 or The Passage. And please treat this as a spoiler alert, in the sense that if you like Justin Cronin's books and you haven't read either The Passage or The 12, please skip ahead, because I'm actually going to talk about one spoiler of the deck. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Okay, so if you're still here, you have read the books, or you don't care about of reading them, which is totally fine. So in one of these two books, there's this girl, and she's immune. So basically, all of the zombies, you know, biting everyone else, every human they find in their way, except for this girl. And the reason is that this girl, she actually knows their names, and they know that instinctually. They probably know that, and they you know, they spare her because they want to go to her and ask her what their name used to be. And I felt that was incredibly touching. That was really, really sad, but it was also incredibly touching. And that talks about the sense of being lost that you can definitely feel, you know, in this really gloomy kind of dark deck, which is the DarkAF deck personality for me. And it's the Terzi by Alejandro Colucci. And the next prompt is the Nature Lover. So it's a deck that it's at one with Mother Earth. So obviously I have a lot of nature-based, animal or plant-based decks, as you probably know if you watch my videos, if you've seen my collection videos. If you haven't, and if I remember, I would just link them in the description box below, or put it at the end of this video as a card. Now, this is the Oak Ash and Thorn tarot, and it's absolutely fantastic. I actually have 2 copies of this. It's really beautiful. It's one of those decks that it is indeed, of course, full of animals. In some cases, you will see animals behaving or in human-like situations. So ironically, this deck, not only I personified the deck, but the deck itself has personified the animals. I really believe that this is a nature lover. It is one of those decks that it is at once with Mother Nature, and you can tell by the way in which animals feel as if they actually are in their own environment. In the cards, the majesty of the Emperor, the stag, and the Emperor, for example, or, you know, of course, the owl with the wisdom of the Hierophant, and the Queen of Swords with I think it's either a raven or a crow. I really enjoy this deck. I enjoy looking at it. I enjoy using it because actually he is a very good reader. Believe it or not, it's not just that I like looking at the images. This deck is a very good reader. It's one of those readers that doesn't necessarily hide the truth from you, because there are a few cards, I think we saw one earlier, there are a few cards that obviously carry a lot of powerful and somehow, you know, warning or negative message, but at the same time it does give you the possibility to look ahead. I love the Moon card. It's probably one of my favorite Moon cards of all of the decks that I've got. So it's one of those decks that, because of, let's say, the theme, the artwork, the color palette, but also the tactile experience of holding this deck in your hands, which is a very satiny kind of finish, but not the glue-y, sticky kind of satin finish of some rose petal decks, for example. It's actually very, it's a very good shuffler. It fans out like a charm. This, by the way, this possibilities card with the dragon is absolutely gorgeous. I really, really do appreciate, you know, sometimes you find 80 cards in a deck simply because of the way in which printers cut the cards. It's easier, let's say, having an 80 cards deck. So sometimes authors or creators, they just put something random, but and they don't really put a lot of thought in that. But in this case, there was that possibilities card is just absolutely superb. So I really appreciate the fact that it's a, you know, an addition to the deck. So this is definitely the nature lover for me, and it's the Oak Ash and Thorn tarot. And the next prompt on my sort of list of personalities related to tarot is the Friend. So the friend is, you all know what a friend is. The friend is the person that tells you that that skirt really makes you look fat. And I don't say that because they get some kind of, joy out of that. They don't necessarily take advantage of your flaws, but they don't hide them either. Like, you can actually ask them for an honest opinion and they will give you one. It's those kind of people that you definitely need in your life, not just because they're friends and everyone needs friends, but because they would tell you the truth. And it's what you make of the truth that, it's your responsibility, obviously, to move forward from that. And I think that the Savvy Soul Tarot by Judy Whitelish is definitely that kind of deck for me. Is one of those decks that I definitely fell in love with. And it was a Kickstarter campaign that I backed last year. I got the deck last year, towards the end of the year. And then every time I use it, it's just a continuous confirmation that I did the right choice. Choosing this deck sometimes. Last year, for example, had some kind of a no Kickstarter years. I do that every other year. It's a no Kickstarter year. And I know it's not, I mean, obviously, if there's a massive project that everyone gets into and is super interesting and lovely deck and everything, that I will break the rule. Of course, the rules are there just to be broken. However, I did keep it at a very low numbers. I think I only backed two decks, and I am so very happy that I did back this one, because I would have been devastated if I hadn't. It's also because this deck is very hard to find now. Outside of the Kickstarter production, there was no reprinting. And so, there's a lot of people actually looking for it, because it is indeed it's one of those spectacular decks that, it's got everything right. It's got the combination of colors, the combination of this style, which is a photographic, but then obviously manipulated kind of style. The fact that the characters are gray, because according to the creator Julie, you want a clean start, and you can actually fill them up with your own colors and your own impressions related to the cards that come up in a reading for you. And that's exactly what I do, and I really, really enjoy doing it with this deck. And as I said many times before, every time that I show this deck, for each and every one of these cards, there's actually a memory for me, because this deck, it really feels like it's based on my life. And that's why this is a friend for me. It really is a personality, and it is a good friend as well. So this is the Savvy Soul Tarot. And the next prompt is the Zero Fucks Given Tarot. Again with the F word, sorry about that. But I think it's really, really a good interpretation of the personality of this deck. I absolutely adore this deck, the Star Power by Six Girl. It's a copy that has been with me, traveling with me for a while now. And I absolutely love the fact that even though I've been using it everywhere, taking it with me, in just throwing it in the bag and, taking it out whenever someone wanted a reading, the gilding is still almost perfect, even though I've been using it, shuffling it a lot. I don't give this deck to others when I read for someone. Sometimes, depending on the deck, sometimes I give the deck to the other person to handle if they want to shuffle it. This one I don't. Don't ask me why. It's something very weird. It might be because I also give, personalities to my decks, and this one is definitely the Zero Fucks Given. This deck's personality is all about you do you, but I do things my way, and please let's not get into each other's hair, because it's not gonna end well. So I absolutely adore the way in which this deck is really in your face. It's just, I am loud, I am present, I am alive, I am doing things, I am screaming, I am, I don't know, crying. I am doing everything that I want. I am creepy, I am scary, I am funny, I am, full of intuition, I am creative, I'm colorful, I'm full of friends, as I said before, you do you. but I do things my way, and that's a really beautiful way to express this kind of personality. I really, really love this 10 of Cups with, you know, that kind of face on the moon saying, yeah, okay, I know what you're doing, it's fine, I'll let you do that. And it's a conversation between yourself and the cards. It's a conversation between yourself as the reader, the cards, and the person you're reading for. Because obviously whenever someone looks at this deck and they see it and they're very interested in it, and that's the reason why I take it with me. And the Six of Swords, by the way, this is so intense, so powerful, so very sad as well. Why? Well, basically because it is the Six of Swords, so obviously when you're a tarot reader, you know what that means. And it becomes sad because you can feel how the person is actually blue, even in their own feelings. So it's a journey you embark upon, but you're not necessarily happy about being there. I really, really enjoy this deck, and as I was saying before, you know, people look at it, they want to see all the cards, and when I read with these cards for them, they're always surprised at how accurate the readings are. So this is one of my favorite decks. I always say that, and I confirm that even after you know, a few years. So this is the Zero Fucks Given Tarot, and it's the Star Power Tarot. And the next prompt is the comedian. Now, we all know that kind of personality. It's the jokester. It's the person that is always joking, that is always using humor, sometimes as a self-defense mechanism. If you don't know anyone who does that, me, you know me. I do have that kind of personality. I do use humor whenever I want to diffuse a bit of a difficult situation. I have no reason to hide that it comes from a very tough childhood, let's put it this way. Whenever there's a lot of tension in a family, there's a lot of violence and a lot of screaming. Children tend to take them upon themselves to just restore the calm and safety in the family. And one way to do that is definitely to make jokes, you know, you just lighten the mood. Not to say that this deck is like that. You definitely don't have the kind of a shadow part of all the being a comedian thing. But if you look at the cards, this is all about rainbows, and the colors are definitely really, really saturated and beautiful. It's all about rainbows, and it's all about aliens, and it's all about you know, aliens just being everywhere, as you can see, and also kidnapping cows, for example. It's all about chilies, which I adore. And this deck, so it's the Desert Illumination Tarot. This is the first edition. I'm not entirely sure 100%. So I did see it on the creator's website. But apparently there was a tiny news that got unnoticed, I think, by most, saying that the second edition of the deck, so not the first edition, but the second edition of the Desert Illumination Tarot is going to be picked up mass market. Again, like the Curious Travels, there was no timeline. And to be honest with you, it wasn't a big announcement, so I don't necessarily know whether that's entirely true. Of course, we got aliens. If it is, I love this card. Fantastic. If it is being picked up mass market, it's probably by US Games, because I feel like US Games, kudos to them, they're picking up some really cool, super cool indie decks lately. So I just adore this deck. It's full of references. For example, the Virgen de Guadalupe in this card. There's also Georgia O'Keeffe in another card, Zorro. This is fantastic. This is the Ten of Pentacles. It's probably my favorite Ten of Pentacles ever. It's just that beautiful mix between really strongly saturated colors and, you know, the odd aliens driving at leisure in a car, and a couple of you know, aliens ships. So Georgia, there she is, of course, the Empress, and of course the aliens abducting a cow. So this is definitely, you know, cracking jokes every now and then, and it's the comedian, because every time I pick it up, I just can't help but laugh. So this is the Desert Illumination Tarot. And the next brand is the Glam. So basically this is a deck that it's glamorous and beautiful and gorgeous, and it had to be the Mind's Eye Tarot by Olivia Rose. I cannot get over how beautiful this deck is. It's just absolutely superb. I am so happy that I got this tarot deck at the same time as her oracle deck, which is called the Heart's Eye Oracle. But also I'm very happy that she's come out with another oracle which is called the Mermaid's Purse Oracle, and she's selling it on her website, but because of shipping costs and everything, I just heard that Chloe from the Mystical House, who's one of the best suppliers of indie decks here in Australia, she's actually going to bring it in for us Aussies to finally get our hands on indie decks from overseas. So a big thank you to Chloe. This deck is the Glam. It's just so absolutely glamorous. It's beautiful. I wanted to call it the fashionista, but it's not about fashion, even though you can really tell that there is a really keen eye on that too. It's just the association between, you know, the colors and the light work, which is absolutely fantastic. If you don't have this tarot deck, I highly recommend it. It's a very beautiful production. As you can see, it's even gold gilded. It's got a really beautiful book. It's a US Games, is it? Yeah, it's a US game deck. As I said, they're really picking up some gems. The booklet is very good. It's fully colored, fully illustrated. I must say though, there's not like a ton of information on each and every card, which is, you know, not even for the majors, but it's absolutely fine. I mean, it's one of those decks that you don't necessarily need the book, although I always ask people to please read the guidebooks, because otherwise you're just going to miss out on something. Look at this Five of Cups, just absolutely superb. So it's a really good product, and it's very affordable, which, you know, it means that it's a really good buy. So you can actually have a look if you want. As always, for each and every one of these decks, unless they're out of print or, you know, difficult to find, I will post the link in the description box below. So if you want to get them, go for it. And this deck is so glamorous. I just absolutely love it. It reminds me, some of the figures remind me a little bit of Pan's Labyrinth by Guillermo del Toro, because simply because of the stance in which they're posed, for example, or the combination of colors. But it's also because it does remind me a little bit of that kind of fantasy world the movie was set on. And it's just beautiful. I mean, look at the Moon card. So beautiful. The Ace of Cups. I could just stay here and just look at the cards one after the other. I really enjoy this deck. And ironically, I actually on Instagram I posted a few oracle pairings for this deck. And it's contrary to what I thought. It's actually not difficult to pair up to find a really good combination with oracle decks. So this is the Glam, and it's the Mind's Eye Tarot. And the next prompt is the Wise One. So originally I actually wanted to call this personality the Grandma, without being offensive, of course. That's why I chose to call it the Wise One. But it is that kind of, you know, it does embody that kind of wisdom of the crone. Obviously, sorry, I forgot to mention this is actually the Wisdom of the Kayak, and by Jane Breston. Sorry if I mispronounced the name. But it's a fantastic deck. It's a rather on the large size, almost oracle size. It is an oracle. It's a really beautiful deck. If you look at the combination between the colors, for example, very beautiful, very saturated, sparkling color, and the keywords as well, which is very interesting. It's one of those decks. This Moon card is just everything. It is so beautiful. There is so much power coming out of this character. And even the lone thorn, you know, the personification of this tree, for example, with the branches that look like their arms reaching out. It's just absolutely superb. I adore this deck. I know that this was the latest printing, and I know that it had been out of print for a while. And when I follow Jane's account on Instagram, and when she announced a few months ago that she was going to reprint, she was opening up some kind of an waiting list, you know, you had to subscribe in to just receive it. I was stoked because I was really happy about it. So of course I did. Of course I subscribed. And it came to me just before I left, so I didn't really have time to go through the deck. But I do have time now, and I just realized that each and every card expresses so much wisdom. So this is the grandma to me because it does embody, and I again, grandma because it could be a grandpa. It's just the power of the crone, the wisdom of the elder. The wise one to me is the person that, again, like in other cases we've seen before, they don't hide the truth, but they don't panic about it. And it's something that I actually need in my life, and you know, a lot of us actually need that kind of sense of safety, that sense of not necessarily because you know that everything is going to be okay, because you don't know that. And no one wants to lie to you about that, but there's also the sense of saying it's okay that you feel afraid about something, and it gives you the possibility to process that feeling and just takes you to the other side. I hope I'm explaining myself, but it's just that kind of feeling. I absolutely adore it. And look at this, the wise woman. It's just absolutely beautiful card. All of these ones, by the way. It reminds me a lot of the Weaver's Oracle for many reasons. But they do have a distinct feel, these two decks. I just got the Weavers when I go back from my vacation, so I haven't had time to go through it yet, but it does give you a kind of a very similar kind of vibe. And so this is the wise one, and we'll end it with the wise woman. So the next one, the next prompt for tarot personality is the weirdo. That it's a deck that's quirky and weird, and I just chose this term because you know, it's something that every single time that I use this deck, this is the Hayworth Tarot, by the way, and it's based on a podcast. The podcast is Welcome to Night Vale. It's been going on for years. It's very interesting, but everything about this deck is quirky. Everything about it is downright weird. If you don't follow the podcast or never had followed the podcast, I kind of have to warn you, some images are, let's say, a bit strong. I've heard that they could be triggering as well. I don't have any trigger coming out of them, but I understand if it is in your case. So just, you know, be warned, some images are a bit triggering. This deck is just so weird. It's strange, it's quirky, but it makes sense. That's the thing, it does make sense. I mean, it's weird because you've got hands, severed hands, most likely, coming out of two cups, but they're still, you know, linking their little fingers. And it's a perfect idea to show you the two cups. So each and every one of these cards, it's just really hitting the spot when it comes to finding a way to express a meaning. Like, look at this Four of Pentacles, for example. I feel that it is an incredibly creepy card in the sense that there is this person that is being sucked into these four holes. But it's also really good to remind you of the stagnation that comes with the Four of Pentacles if you don't manage it correctly. So it may mean consolidation, but it can also mean stagnation. So it's just, you know, being sucked in, you're unable to move, etc. I really enjoy this deck. I have been using it a couple of times simply because people sometimes actually ask me, when I do readings, ask me to read with it for them. And it's always spot on. It's an incredibly good reader. I really, really enjoy using it. And by the way, this is an incredibly affordable price to be an indie deck. And even the shipping cost, I don't know whether they changed it. I hope they haven't. But they ship to Australia for about $15 US, which is about 24 Australian dollars, which is not much more than what we pay for domestic shipping. I can tell you that. So I was really happy about getting it. It didn't take more than 3 weeks to get here. So Okay, so everyone is debating. So there's actually website. There's websites in which they look at this tarot deck, and there's people contributing to the website that has a spreadsheet in Excel that you can download. You can put what your interpretation of the card is as related back to the podcast, and then you re-upload the file onto the website. And I've seen everything. I've seen really everything about this card, and I don't think even the podcast aficionados, they still don't really understand this card. But it's the Justice card, so we know how to read Justice, right? It's a really quirky deck. It's a weirdo of the deck, but it's in a good way. It's a weirdo, but it's in a good way, weird. So this is the Hayworth Tarot. And the next prompt is the Doom Prepper. And it's a deck that is always pointing out that the world is going to end one way or another. Now, this one is meant to be for good fun. It's the Zombie Tarot. I absolutely love this deck because it is, it's the different kind of weird. So the Hayworth Tarot was weird because it was a bit creepy. This tarot deck is weird because it's a bit whimsical. I absolutely adore it. Each and every one of these cards just reminds you that yes, the world is going to end and we're going to go through a zombie apocalypse, and there's going to be a megalovirus that is going to kill us all, and only a few will survive, and there's going to be this and there's going to be that, and there's going to be meteors coming into the earth and destroying everything, and you know, the waters are going to rise, and you know, all the doomsday predictions that unfortunately in many cases have actually become true. But each and every card is reminding you that what do you want to do? I mean, just, you know, just live however you have left, just enjoy life, and you know, remember. Look at this moon card. It's just, I love this moon card because I don't know if you can tell. Let me see if I can zoom in, but this character is actually happy. You know, smiling and thinking, okay, I'm going to have a nice night. It's gonna be, you know, I'm just gonna sleep and rest, and below me there's just zombies because that's the way the world goes nowadays. Or this one, you know, making the most of it, of course, going to the beach, having a picnic and eating a brain. I really love this deck. It is a doomsday prepper, but on the other hand, it's also telling you that no matter what happens, the world will end, but so what? I mean, if you die, you die. If you survive, you'll have to change your lifestyle a little bit. Love this High Priestess, by the way. It's the kind of deck that sometimes we need. We need this kind of humor, you know, this kind of way of looking at things that it's not always really heavy. Not because we don't want to worry about things. Of course, there's going to be things that happen, but at least we can chuckle. Sometimes we can chuckle about it. So I absolutely love. This is the the Eight of Hazards, by the way. Fantastic. So this was the Doomsday Prepper personality, and I chosen the Zombie Tarot. That was it for today. Thank you so much for staying with me till the end of this video. I really appreciate you being here with me. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, if you like it, please do, because the more we are, the more we can have a conversation about not just tarot, but life in general, because this is what everything is about, you know, talking about our lives. So have a great day.